The word porn is typed into internet search engines up to 250,000 times a day. There are over 1 billion websites worldwide with porn-related content. Over 9 million British men admit to watching porn. We've asked 1,000 of them why, and the results are eye-popping. 1/4 of the upper classes prefer bondage, and 2/3 of men who went to boarding school prefer girl-on-girl.
I think we watch it because we love it.
You just put 2 lesbians on, you know, thump yourself dry, move on.
Porn is sex, sex, sex.
Why do working class men say they watch porn to de-stress? And why do the upper classes seek out riskier porn?
Rich or upper class people prefer cheap porn because they just want to see Sharon from Croydon being shagged and laid by.
I just think porn has a place in everyone's hearts and lives.
To find out, we've devised a unique experiment. And these are the 20 men who volunteered to take part.
Not too nervous, a little bit excited and a little bit curious.
I've seen all kinds of porn and I've not liked it.
I've got nothing to be nervous of right now.
I'm a little bit apprehensive about it.
The sort of porn I wouldn't like to watch is anything with anal or violent sex.
If you want to show me something to shock me, I'll be more than happy.
We'll secretly film them and measure their responses. And then we'll show their partners.
Yeah, no, he looked pretty bored. He did smile on the girl-on-girl one.
Sometimes it can be a pain in the ass.
And if the men try and hide their feelings, our experts will find them out.
If they know that their neighbour is watching or something, they probably will make a real effort to hide their body language.
Each individual is going to come to the experience with a different set of messages, a different amount of baggage.
But we're not just putting men to the test. We'll be asking Britain's women what they think of porn too.
If you're going to sit upstairs and sit and think about it, why not just get on and do it?
My favourite type of porn is probably bondage.
In the next hour, we'll tell you the truth about porn and why men watch it. These 20 men have been handpicked to take part in a radical experiment. They'll be dragged kicking and screaming into this room, where they'll be subjected to hours and hours of exposure to pornography. Oral, girl-on-girl, spanking and hardcore. All in the name of science. Not only that, we wanted to see what their wives and girlfriends would think of their partners' reactions to watching porn. But before our poor suffering guinea pigs endure this mental torture, let's hear more about them. The men are split into 4 age groups: 18 to 25, 26 to 35, 36 to 50, and the over 50s. Representing our 26 to 35 age group are Belton, Andrew, Marlon, Richard and Charlie Bell. Charlie's 35, a steel fixer, describes himself as middle class and says he's a frequent user of porn.
Probably watch porn every other day. I like big boobs, I like girl-on-girl, but then I'm getting desensitised to porn as well.
Charlie's been married to Enaida for 4 years.
We met in Venezuela when I was working out there as a financial consultant. For a laugh, one of her friends started a conversation between the 2 of us, and then we just met and I got her number and we just took it from there. I suppose the motivation for me watching porn currently would be it'd probably be to relieve some sort of tension, very briefly. I mean, you know, I've been around the block and I don't really need any techniques, tips at this stage.
If we're watching it together, obviously, I'll go for whichever type of porn Charlie would like to watch, because it's a sharing kind of thing. And the ones I liked, which I watch on my own, he wouldn't really want to watch them because it probably has a lot of wheelies in it.
From the youngest age group, there's Jerome, Nathan, Julian, David and Sam Beadle. Sam's from London. He's 22, is a magician, considers himself to be middle class and doesn't use porn at the moment.
My first experience with porn was between the ages of 12 and 13. I don't really watch it these days. It's not really my thing. But I have had experience with porn.
Sam's new girlfriend Vega also happens to be the assistant in his alternative stage act.
We swallow razor blades, we fire eat, we fire breathe, we do all sorts of crazy things. Usually I've got you chained up against a brick wall. And I suppose what I would normally have searched for would be just your typical straight porn, two people, and that would be it.
Me and Sam are pretty straight with each other. If there's something that I don't want to do, I won't do it. I think that, you know, porn is there as a fantasy for men. It's there as a form of escapism. So if there's something that Sam likes that I don't, well then there's always porn.
From the 35 to 50-year-olds, there's Paul, Dave, Rod, Jim and Jeremy Brown. Jeremy's friends call him Jem. He's 40, a wrestling coach and considers himself working class. He's an occasional porn viewer.
I've seen loads of different things, you know. If I surf the net and I'll see something, an image, I may, you know, sort of like download it.
Jem's been with his partner Shirley for 12 years.
When you're in a relationship, you're always looking for something to spark another, you know, sort of like, if you like, another good night of sex.
Pornography doesn't bother me. If he wants to watch it, he can watch it. I don't mind.
I'm one of these characters that you can, you know, embarrass, but I won't show it.
Finally, from the over 50s, there's Seamus, Peter, Charles, John and Ken Audbrey-Wade. Ken is 63, retired. And very middle class, lived in Amsterdam for many years, but doesn't watch any porn anymore.
It's like looking at fresh meat. Yeah, pornography is like, it's a business, isn't it?
Ken's been married to Hazel for 15 years, but their relationship got off to a fiery start.
I said, if you think I want to get involved with anybody, anything like that, I said, you can forget it. We were married a few months later. I ended up in Amsterdam with Hazel, and I had the opportunity to go in and run this place called Gay Paradise. It was a club that was on the ground floor, and above was a male brothel.
Living the high life in Amsterdam has given Ken and Hazel broad minds.
It's no different than girls looking at muscly men in magazines. Sometimes wives get a bit upset if they don't know, and it should be something that perhaps they should talk about.
These four men are about to watch a series of adult films they've never seen before. They have no idea how they'll react, and neither do their other halves. Later on, we'll show Shirley, Vega, Hazel and Aneda the reactions of their men. Just what is it that gets 9 million men watching porn on the internet every year? Is watching porn still as taboo today as it used to be? Does watching porn only ever result in, one conclusion? Do men need help to get themselves in the mood? Are they looking for tips, tricks or techniques? Are they trying to escape their mundane lives? Or are they satisfying a secret desire? So, to find out as much as we could about who, what, why, how and where they watch, we asked you. We commissioned a nationwide poll of 1,000 men between the ages of 18 and 65. And, before you ask, the husband of the former Home Secretary did not take part. We wanted to know as much as possible about you, your age, your income, where you live, what school you went to, whether you're working class or upper class. So, for starters, we wanted to know what you were watching and where you were watching it. Our poll revealed that 23% of British men watch porn at least once a week. But the figure shoots up to nearly 50% for those earning over £60,000 a year. And 20% of men in that wage bracket watch porn at the office. Well, that explains what all those bankers were doing during the credit crunch.
Wealth affords you time on your hands. With time on your hands, literally, time on your hands.
You toil away for all your life, and then the minute you start earning 60k, you can really get your feet on the desk, really start watching that internet porn.
Let's be honest, rich people are twats. You know, we're working. That's the whole idea of working class. We're actually working.
So let's put the men to work in our pornography experiment.
No, I'm having an open mind for today. I'm going to take what's thrown at me.
I'm just hoping it's not, you know, a few blokes in a room in front of a TV with their hands on their laps.
When I get home tonight, I'll probably be feeling a bit horny, I reckon.
And being in the Navy, and I very much doubt he was going to shock me at all.
Each of the men has a heart rate monitor attached to their chest and linked wirelessly to a wristwatch to precisely measure their pulse during the exercise. An elevated pulse is one possible sign of sexual arousal. Next door, we've built a viewing room for our volunteers, and helping to understand more about why men watch porn is Professor Brian McNair.
Men are programmed genetically to have sex with as many partners as possible. You know, this is the genetic, if you like, determination of male sexuality. And insofar as men find sex attractive, then it's not really a surprise that they're going to find the image of sex attractive.
The men will also each have a keypad. It's numbered 1 to 9. The numbers represent degrees of arousal, so pressing number 1 represents disinterested, whilst pressing number 9 indicates they're feeling extremely aroused. While the men are watching a series of different film clips, they'll be asked to press the button that most corresponds to how they're feeling, so we can tell who likes what. Oh, and if they think they might be able to fool us, behind this two-way window is social anthropologist Jean Smith. She'll be looking for the signs of arousal, enjoyment, or even distress that you and I might not notice.
I think one problem that people have with body language is they see one thing, like for example crossed arms, and then they make one big assumption. But actually you need a few different signals before you can sort of have an accurate interpretation of what's happening.
Because although we Brits like to think we're liberated, open-minded and honest with each other, porn, it seems, is still a dirty word.
I don't think you should continue filming now. I think you should just stop the camera and let's go inside and we continue it inside, yeah.
Terry Stevens is a porn movie director. Today he's booked into a hotel to film a scene for a DVD he's producing. In our poll, 38% of British men told us they prefer this kind of amateur porn. Darren and Lisa are today's actors.
I do still to kind of break the ice. I mean, even though we're familiar, it's always a nice way to sort of warm up on doing stills to start off with, because that way, when they get into the video, the whole bonding process is kind of complete. And have a look, Lee. Cool, got that one.
Before Terry reveals the secrets of a porn producer, it's back to the experiment. The 4 men representing our 4 age groups have each taken their place in the arena, along with 16 others who vary in age, class, occupation, income, and of course degree of porn habit. Charles is upper class, so our poll says he should sweat over the S&M. Belton is working class. Our poll tells us he'll be into hardcore. Jerome loves porn. Our poll suggests he'll like it all. So let's find out. The first film of the experiment is mild, soft pornography, the kind you'd find late at night on cable TV and made to get you in the mood. Professor McNair will be watching the films along with the men.
It's usually shown post-watershed, late-night TV. It's usually advertised as, you know, vaguely erotic TV. I would say it's very mainstream now. Most people will have seen this stuff on normal television.
Each film will last 5 minutes, and the purpose of this first soft porn sequence is to relax the men and give them a taste of what's to come. So, halfway through, we ask the men for some feedback to test their keypads. And then, when we reach the end of the film, we ask the men to press their keypads again, and we take their pulse. In between each porn film, we'll play the men some calming images and music, so that they can collect their thoughts, and we can collect their data. So after round 1 of soft porn, Jerome had already reached the heady heights of feeling fairly aroused. That's a 5 on his keypad.
He was sitting with his arms crossed, folded across his chest, and his legs crossed. So already it's kind of showing like, you know, leave me alone, I kind of want to be by myself.
The pulse of an average 60-year-old man should be around 70, but 61-year-old Seamus's heart pumped its way up to 108 beats per minute. Maybe it's just nerves, eh? If most of the men didn't find the soft porn arousing, can women understand why? We showed the film to 4 open-minded mates from Essex.
They can't be getting a lot. Yeah, in my opinion, I'd say the same. If they've got to get enjoyment from that, they're not getting much at all.
And later we'll be asking Kelly and her friends to watch much more porn. Because we're still to play films showing oral sex, lesbian sex, bondage and sadomasochism. And really hardcore sex. These 20 men of different ages, jobs and social class have been selected to take part in an experiment where they'll be bombarded with scenes from pornographic movies. Because according to our poll of 1,000 British men, 40% said porn is more acceptable today than before.
Excuse the pun, so much of it shoved down your throat that, you know, you just become used to it.
For many blokes, porn is the first sex education that they get. That's where they first see it actually happening in front of their eyes.
Because it's so accessible that your kind of boundaries are lowered. It's everywhere.
The 20 men have each been wired up to a heart rate monitor and have keypads to give us a measure of their state of arousal. We hope they'll be honest, because if they're not, then social anthropologist Jean Smith will be watching from behind this two-way screen.
They're either imagining themselves actually in the act, or if they're not enjoying porn, it's because they're just looking at naked men.
4 of the men, Charlie, Sam, Jem and Ken, have been chosen as representatives of each age group. And after we've discovered what kind of porn they really like, we'll show their partners.
Yeah, no, he looked pretty bored. He did smile on the girl-on-girl one. Something happened there. He actually
And we've also asked you. We ran a poll of 1,000 British men under the age of 65, and we got some surprising results.
If you read in Scripture, back in the Old Testament, I believe God clearly states that men should watch as much porn as humanly possible.
And we've also shown the films to a group of girlfriends from Essex to find out what women think.
Oh, you carry on like that, now your teeth are going to fall out.
Our 20 men have already seen a softcore film, and now it's time for some harder material. Helping us understand why men watch porn is Professor Brian McNair.
From the very early days of pornography, oral sex has been one of the staples of the genre. You see it in early black and white movies, silent, stag reels, photographs, etc.
In our poll of the viewing habits of 1,000 British men, 11% of those from East Anglia said that polishing their technique was the reason they watched.
Why is this? Is there not enough women up there?
What is it with East Anglians? I mean, you shouldn't look to porn for technique advice. Remember, pornography is done by professionals. It should really have a warning sticker on it. Don't try this at home.
As the oral sex film begins, non-user Sam's pulse is steady at 69 beats per minute. So he clearly isn't finding this scene arousing. But halfway through the film, he hits a 5 on his keypad. He's admitting he's fairly aroused. Jem only registers a 3, that's vaguely aroused. But Jean has other ideas.
I noticed that he was tilting his head a few times, and I think what was happening is he was actually trying to move to the angle that the film was going, so he's trying to interpret it in a different way.
Next to Jem, former heavy porn user Dave has also hit the vaguely aroused button, but he's been biting his lip during the scene.
He's probably really conscious of his own oral capabilities. What we learn about men when they watch porn is they're either imagining themselves actually in the act, or if they're not enjoying porn, it's because they're just looking at naked men. So he's probably one of those who's empathizing with the main character.
We let another couple of minutes pass, then asked the men to vote again before taking their pulse. Occasional porn lover Rod is 47 and physically fit, so his heart rate should be in the mid-60s. And by the end of this oral film, it's 55 beats per minute. He's seen it all before. So will anything arouse him? We'll find out later. The 18 to 25ers responded more strongly than the other age groups to the oral sex.
We're more into the blowjobs and oral sex, I think, basically, all those different stuff, compared with the old school methods, yeah. It's like having a good time, you don't have to do a lot of the work, basically. The girl does it.
Non-user Sam responded strongly to the oral sex scenes. Is he trying to tell his girlfriend something?
I think because I like stuff that I can be involved in. Obviously, oral sex I very much enjoy.
So what does Vega think?
It's not something that men, I assume, tend to get every day. It's a bit of a treat, so I think that's something that I know interests him.
So do all men think this way? To understand more, we need to ask what porn does to them. Aside from what's going on downstairs, we really need to know what's happening upstairs.
The actual action of being very close to something that you're watching works directly with the seeking pathway within the brain, and it's that seeking pathway where dopamine is produced. And when we produce dopamine, we experience feelings of pleasure and satisfaction, and dopamine also motivates us to try and seek more of it. So the more dopamine you produce, the more you seek out and the more that you want. So you actually get hooked in chemically with internet pornography and find yourself actually wanting and needing more and more to get the same buzz.
Dopamine is released in real life when someone is sexually attracted to or falls in love with someone else. So watching too much porn could make you fall in love with it. Once a sex education tool, porn has evolved to possess just one simple function: to cause sexual excitement to men. But things are changing.
There's been a cultural shift. Women have become, and particularly, you know, since the rise of feminism in the 70s and into the 80s, and the Madonna phenomenon and after Madonna, and it's become now much more acceptable for women to admit that they too want access to pornography, to sexual culture, and that this is not something shameful, and this is not something that good girls don't do anymore.
I think women are as interested in porn as men. They just don't like to show it as much. For me, it's a very instantaneous thing. You know, you see nudity, get hard, away you go. For a woman, it needs more of a build-up.
So to test that theory, we took the porn films we're showing to the men to Essex to ask 4 broad-minded women in their 20s what they liked.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm Kelly the hen. Woo! I'm Jo. I'm Stevie.
We caught up with them on Kelly's hen night, getting ready to have their own encounter with the naked form. The hangovers have worn off just in time to watch the oral sex film that we've been showing to the men. The clip includes fellatio.
She's going to gag. I knew you'd say that. Oh, carrying like that, so your teeth going to fall out. It'll come out of bum.
To keep things even, there's also cunnilingus.
Oh, dirty bastard. Comes up and he's got it all around his head. I'm done.
So what's the appeal to men?
Because it's more full on, isn't it? You've got more detail. And you can see everything. You can see everything. They're showing everything. And probably teaching them how to do it.
And they'll get to see much more later. Back at our experiment, and the men have recovered from their own taste of oral. The next film we'll show them is Girl on Girl.
I think many heterosexual men enjoy the idea of 2 women performing for them, you know, in front of them. It kind of satisfies the male ego in a certain way.
In our poll of 1,000 British men, the biggest fans of girl-on-girl porn went to boarding school. 2/3 said they prefer it to any other porn.
I was at a boarding school. I'm in that 65%. Done. The boarding school guys like the girl on girl more. Probably because they haven't been exposed to girls. They're like locked in a castle for 6 years. There's no women.